So Shiba Inu has actually been, I would call it a very good early market performer. Some people may disagree with me, but Shiba Inu did something that it normally wouldn't do because a couple things in this market cycle have been slightly different. But at the same time, we have been given a huge opportunity because the biggest and best times of adoption in the crypto market with the most users, the most capital, hasn't even hit yet. But yet Shiba Inu is showing all the signs that it is set to surge past its all-time high. I'm Luckside. Welcome to the channel. If you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that bell again. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So this is something that I think a lot of people miss when it comes to assets in this space, right? They look through a very narrow lens. They don't look at what is coming down the road. And in fact, Shiba Inu did something this year that it normally wouldn't do. It went on a 4.5x surge back in over the course of 7 days back in February into March because institutional money introduced a little bit of a wild card into this industry. It actually pumped BTC to a new all-time high way earlier than it normally does. It normally doesn't happen until like around a few months from now, okay? But yet it did it early. It caused a burst of excitement. We saw a lot of new capital actually entering the space earlier than it normally does. And that's what caused Shiba Inu to do quite well because of those metrics being what they are, because of the long-term mindset, because it's got huge optics outside the space. And so now, because of that, Shiba Inu got a little higher early on than it probably normally would have. And we've gone on this very long period of consolidation, which is starting to turn around now. We're seeing a lot of those bullish signs play out, and we're starting to see Shiba Inu move back up and to the right. And these are exciting things, right? But what I want to point out is that the biggest and best times of adoption, the most capital hitting the space, the most users hitting the space, it happens during alt season. It happens during the height of the market cycle. That's why I've always said that making judgments based on now and like these current charts through this very narrow lens doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And frankly, for Shiba Inu to do as well as it's done early on this market cycle, it's really pointing towards an all-time high surge sometime in the near term. Now, this isn't a guarantee. This isn't financial advice or anything like that. But what we're seeing is this build in momentum. We're seeing a build in terms of positivity. And if we look back at the last market cycle, there was actually more adoption that took place in the last few months of the market cycle than there was the rest of 2021, than there was in most of 2020. All right. People forget this time and time again, and they look at these times incorrectly. They look at this as a time of despair, a time where things suck. And instead, they should be looking at it as a time of opportunity, a time of discounts and taking advantage before everybody else outside the space actually knows what's going on. So I reference this a lot, but we're following this psychology of a market cycle, right? We're trying to figure out where exactly we are in these charts. What are we at complacency? Are we about to go on a big drop in the market? Or are we in this phase of disbelief? I believe we're in the phase of disbelief. We're just starting to climb out of this right now. We haven't even gotten into hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, and all the signs are there to actually show us that, right? Because BTC is currently below its all-time high, but institutional money is very positive. You're just starting to see a pickup outside the space in terms of optics, and that somewhat has to do with obviously questions of crypto regulation, the SEC attacking crypto in general. But the biggest sign of all is that we haven't seen retail really start to flow back into the space in a big way. When we look at the overall market cap of crypto, right? $2.32 trillion. Is that right? Yeah, $2.32 trillion. Sorry, guys. And we look at what we've been doing over the past several months, even though, oops, wow, I do not like this chart. Okay. So even though BTC is close to its prior all-time high, you can see most assets have bled. And that's because a lot of people have taken profit. A lot of people are sitting back on the sidelines. They're waiting to re-enter the space. And luckily, we're building some good momentum over the last several months here, a nice little direction change. But we're not even close to tackling this, right? This is 2.33 to 2.71. That's more than a 6% or 7% move away from what BTC is from its all-time high, okay? So again, for example, look at this. Altcoin season, this is kind of a cool index. Didn't even know they had this, but this altcoin season index, 33 out of 100. We're still very close to Bitcoin season. We haven't seen this shift yet where new capital flows into the crypto market and specifically flows into alts. All right. That's where you see that big BTC drop off take place. That's where you start to see assets like Shiba Inu start to perform some of the best in the market. And because of those metrics that Shiba Inu has, like I've talked about, long-term mindset, removal of supply from exchanges, all these, the long-term I mentioned that, whale accumulation, right? These are all things that are leading towards a new all-time high surge in terms of Shiba Inu, a big adoption surge in terms of Shiba Inu. If it was able to do a 4.5x early on in this market cycle, what do we think is going to happen when the times are actually good, when there is actually new people entering the space, when there's new capital flowing in, right? These times aren't, they're not something that's not going to happen. It's a matter of when it's going to happen, right? And obviously there are a few things that could make things happen faster, a few things that can make them happen sooner. Obviously we have an election ahead. Obviously there's still concerns about the economy and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to slow down mass adoption. The wave will hit. And luckily we're in an asset, that's Shiba Inu, that has, again, like I talked about earlier, everything working in its favor. So don't get discouraged right now. Don't be dissuaded by the fact that price hasn't taken off, because those big adoption times, the big explosive times where the new capital's hitting the space, is still down the timeline here. So appreciate you guys as always. I hated that end right there. Anyway, you guys get the point. Have a great day. Sure.